Hello, welcome to our latest edition of Rockstar Launcher. My name is Susie Fulton. I am one of the co-founders of a women-owned law firm, Fulton Jeang. And speaking of rock stars, I have with me today my Rockstar patent law partner, Wei Wei Jeang, and she will introduce you to our guests for the day.
Thank you, Susie. This is going to be a fun episode because we have Brian Butler of Butler Concepts with us. And boy, I remember about at least 10 years ago when you first came to my office with your prototype.
My pitiful prototype. Yes.
I thought it was an amazing idea, and I told you so back then.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you came up with this.
Well, years ago, I was eating fajitas at a Ninfa's restaurant, and I was 18 years old, and I'm 53 now, and I didn't have any room. So I took the lid off the tortillas and placed the wooden underliner over where the tortillas go. And when I went to get another tortilla, they were warm. So I thought that's where they ought to be. And didn't do anything with it for years. I did make another prototype, and I've had it for a long time. Not this one before even this one. And I named it then. The only thing that I did was I was going to call it the Fajita Butler.
You came up with the name.
The name was on the way home from Dallas. So that's the only thing that's never changed.
And it's now a registered trademark.
Now, thanks to you, yeah, it's now a registered trademark. And so I started another business and got real busy and didn't do anything with it until 10 years ago when I met you.
What spurred you to, you waited all those years, and did a light bulb go on, or
No,
what spurred you to?
I was telling her earlier, my son was making fun of the model that I had made and told me I needed to just throw it away. And I said, no, it'll work.
Kids are cruel. They're hard. They're cold.
Nobody's come up with it yet. I can get patent on it.
And that was one that was before this.
That was one before this that's real brittle now, and it's in my office now. But he was telling me to just throw it away, and I said, no, I can get patent on it. So probably a year after that, we were kind of thinking about patent searches and whatever, and just by Google, we found Wei Wei, and her office called me back immediately, and that's who I stayed with.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
The beginning of the Fajita Butler.
That's
and I
it.
love the double entendre of the last name and then the name, the Fajita Butler.
It fits perfectly.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense if it was the Fajita Smith. So the name was the easy part.
But I kind of want to show off all the features that you have here. And you have made some changes since, the earlier versions, but this is, why don't you tell us what all the different parts?
This is, to explain to it like I do a customer.
Yes.
If you look at this, and you was to cut it right here, and you remove the drawer section, this is just a 35% nylon glass-filled plastic. The heat from the skillet makes it real hot here. So if this was cut off here like the wood is, the server wouldn't be able to hold it because the heat from the skillet transfers down and instead of burning. The reason they use wood now for underliners is because the skillet will use the energy and burn the wood instead of transferring the heat down.
The traditional restaurant would have a wooden.
Yes, the traditional restaurants use a wooden underliner, which they have to replace about every quarter, depending on the volume. Okay, and they get expensive. They're anywhere from $14 to $21 a piece. Okay, but they've used wood from early on because they can hold it right here, kind of like fit on the door when the house is on fire. The door is not hot, but it's warm, right? Mine, if we was to cut this off and just use this top part, the server couldn't hold it. Okay, so and that's again where it kind of started. If this was cut off, I took the lid off of the tortillas and got rid of that dish, and when I went to get another one, the tortillas are warm. That's where it all started. So we use the heat, and the patent that you got for us
We have a utility and design patents.
Yeah. And the utility patent is anything that's placed underneath the skillet to keep an item warm. right? So now the tortillas are in here, and even if 500 degrees is here, I've measured it, gets about 110 in here and then slowly drops. But it'll keep them warm for 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
So it's identical on both sides. All right.
Yeah.
So if we're eating across from each other, whatever. So that was the first part, and this
Right.
the earlier
Which
the
you
earlier
had
prototype.
that. Right.
So once we had this figured out, I believe it was my son that said, but you still have all the condiments. So we were going to do a long dish or whatever, and we ended up with things like this. So what this is this lip here is just.
Oh, it clips on. Okay,
Yeah.
you know what? I
And
didn't notice
it's
that
just
when it
all,
does.
it's just friction.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And but it's strong. So you
Yeah.
can put them anywhere you want to around the outside edge.
Right. And you're coming up with different
Yes.
versions of it now.
Yes. So some restaurants use these, and they'll do cheese and sour cream and guacamole and pico or whatever. Some of them have mentioned that they'd like to have, when somebody orders, just extra cheese.
More cheese. I was going to say,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
that's not big enough
So,
for the cheese.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So they want the same setup, the same size, but all one dish. So
Yeah.
that's where that came in.
Yeah.
Love it.
These are going to be a little bit bigger. These are just prototypes right now. But these are for rice and beans. If somebody wants rice and beans, or if they just want a bunch of guacamole or whatever, then we're going to have those. We're going to list them as an option, as everything.
I love it. I mean, we've all been, you know, I'm a native Texan, and so I've grown up with Tex-Mex, and we've all been at that table where 3 or 4 people
Yeah.
order the fajitas, and everybody gets, you know, and it's just taking
Everywhere.
up the whole
Yeah.
table, and
Yeah.
there's not room for the 5
No,
margaritas
there's
that
not.
people want to drink,
No.
right? And
No,
Yeah.
and talking to a lot of servers over the year, it drives the servers just as crazy as anybody else, because they have to scoot everything around, knock
Right,
drinks over,
right.
and whatever.
there's just
Right.
no room on the table for
Yeah,
it.
and
so.
and we've really, you know, initially when speaking with you, I thought it was just going to be homes. You know, maybe homes would take it.
Right.
Maybe I'll get into restaurants, and then it kind of did it on its own.
Right.
kind of
Tell
word
us
of mouth.
about the trade show you were at.
I just left the CMAA trade show, which is the Club Managers Association of America, and for I don't know how, but it ended up in the Polo Club at Boca Raton in Florida, and from there it went into a few other country clubs. So I just left their industry trade show, and now we have 113 that are looking at it.
Oh, that's incredible.
And they use it, and I never would have thought about it, is if we were sitting at lounge chairs by the pool, then if this was the table in between us, they can actually bring fajitas out on this little table.
Yes, now they
Right.
have
Yeah.
they
You
can
can't-
serve it now
Exactly.
by
Yeah.
the poolside.
Because
And they use
That
it,
would be
and
awesome.
they use it for breakfast. I have a restaurant here in Dallas. It's called Tacos and Avocados in Carrollton, and they do street tacos with it.
Oh, cool.
What do they
Yep.
put down in the drawer?
Tortillas, where you can make your own
Oh,
street tacos.
the
Right.
soft.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, the
Tacos.
tortillas.
Yeah,
So
that's
instead of ordering street tacos with chicken and cilantro or whatever, they put cilantro here and onions here and
You help yourself and make your
and
own
you
taco.
make your own. Yeah. They-
Like a taco bar.
exactly like your own little taco bar.
That's awesome. And, you know, because I love to eat migas if I go for like a breakfast. And by the time I finish my first tortilla
Right.
and all the other, you know, then it's cold.
That's why they only bring you 3 at a time.
Right. I love
Is
that.
because they get cold. And some of my
So that
restaurants now serve
saves
6 or
on
7.
server time too, going back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah, because if they want more tortillas, they just take this and then they just bring you another one and just put it right back in there.
Oh wow,
Okay.
that's fantastic.
So
And everything stacks. Each base will stack inside of another one, so the restaurants really enjoy that.
I think, you know, the audience is like, oh yeah, that's so obvious. You know, I should have thought of that, or could have, would have, should have, you know, and that happens a lot, I think, with people that are inventing things that are really cool and useful and practical, right? Which is what you did. And people kind of see the tail end of this finished product and this, you know, everything looks great, and they think, wow, these entrepreneurs that they just, they're a different kind of set of people, and they go from here and then just take off. And that's not the that is not the journey.
No, not at
right?
all.
I mean, there are these big valleys.
There's big learning curves.
Tell us about.
I am a window tinner by trade.
Okay.
That's my career,
primary.
My primary career for 35 years. I knew nothing about 3D prototyping or modeling or tooling or injection molding, nothing at all. So this is literally made out of wood. So our next one, we kind of took wood and fiberglass and made something close to this. And just, I really don't know how we ended up with the 3D modeler, but he took that and kind of guided me like you guided me and said, he would say things and I would say, what are you talking about? What is that? And just learning as I went. So we went from something even more primitive than this to 3D prototyping to actually finding somebody that would take what's called step files of a 3D prototype and turn that into tooling. And then you learn again. Then you learn about tooling and injection molding. And the injection molding, the tooling was actually made overseas through a liaison of this company. Then we brought the tooling back to be made in the United States. So it's made in Arlington, Texas right now. But no, I knew nothing about patents. I knew nothing about modeling. And it was years. I mean, after with Wei Wei, it did go like this, but it was a quick learning curve to get to an actual plate.
Yeah, a lot of times I tell inventors that I meet with, that I work with, that probably getting you a patent is the easy part.
That was the easiest part.
And
because we don't do it, you do it, and you do that, and you know everything about that. Yeah.
Getting it commercialized and getting a market for it, and
that's the hard part.
A lot of perseverance.
And even to this day, I have not spent any money on marketing at all.
Is that right? Okay,
no.
I was going to ask you
I launched it on, after we got the tooling done and started being able to make parts, I launched it on Kickstarter.
Okay.
And you did?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Kickstarter, I think our goal was $10,000. I think we raised $19,000.
Okay.
And so we sold, 5 at a time or 2 at a time, different packages or tiers on Kickstarter. And after that, I had a friend help me put it on Amazon. And then from Amazon, it's all been word of mouth. The first advertising or marketing that I've actually done is the CMAA show that I just left.
Wow, that's crazy.
February 5th, like 3 weeks ago. So, and feel kind of dumb because out of that now I've got 113 more customers.
That's just like
which I'm thinking I should have done this a long time ago.
It's a tip of the iceberg, right?
Exactly.
There's so many groups or restaurant organizations that you can get into or go to their trade shows or whatever and introduce that. So I think hopefully we'll be seeing the Fajita Butler in all our...
I hope so. Restaurants all talk to each other.
Right.
And I didn't realize it until I started talking to more restaurant customers. And I've gained a lot of them over the years because when I sell to Amazon, they end up finding me or my phone number, my email. So we talk kind of like my relationship with you. I can text you and you can text me back, even emojis and whatever, Merry Christmas. It's not all just about work with Wei Wei, and that's why I love Wei Wei. But a lot of my restaurants, we have a very personal relationship. And by learning also their industry, I've learned that restaurant owners eat in other restaurants.
Oh, right.
To try their salsa and to try their new dishes and to look at their, decorations and staff
layout,
and, the way they do things, right? So doing that has gained me a lot of customers because they go into a restaurant, they see this, and then the name or Google Images or whatever, and then they end up finding me.
What is that? I want one. So.
Didn't you have a user, a buyer, somebody who used your Fajita Butler and did a YouTube video?
Yes, smoking and grilling with AB. The orders started coming in on Amazon, which we we used to keep about 200 at Amazon, which is not a lot compared to most products. And it was fulfilled by Amazon. So when Amazon fulfills something, they have 200 and they just ship them out. You don't have to, you just ship 200 at one time, right?
Yeah.
And so we were in Dallas and the orders started coming in quickly and I didn't know what was going on. So I think it sold out on Amazon and my phone rang and I asked the lady that was asking me questions, how did you hear about it? Because of course I don't do any advertising.
Yeah, she tracked him down
Oh, that's
because
funny.
Amazon sold out.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, because you can, when you look up the Fajita Butler, it'll go to the website and my phone number is on the website. And the website builders even said, don't do that. And I'm going to keep it that way until I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Right. But right now I want to know my customers. I want them to call me and talk to me like our relationship we have.
Right.
Anyway, so she said, oh, it was on YouTube, a guy that I follow on YouTube. And he did a Super Bowl bid on it with cooking fajitas for the Super Bowl. And I actually reached out to him. And he didn't, he was a big influencer. He didn't charge me anything. He just did it
Because he
for,
loved it.
he did it because he wanted to do fajitas and he found this plate to do it with.
Yeah.
And so me and him are still, you know, able to talk and
That's
whatever.
awesome.
But yeah, and that's another time that I thought, you know, if I was out there doing this, I would sell X amount more of it. Honestly, yeah, sales are great. I enjoy more seeing it out there than I do the money.
The money, right? Yeah.
You know,
That's
when
cool.
a customer
It's coming.
Yes, yeah. The money will be fine, right?
Yes.
And the money's good now.
Yes.
But I have more enjoyment
Just
with the
saying your-
relationship of the people that use it and them sending me pictures of people using it, you know.
It's like, that's my thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's kind of like a satisfaction thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Years ago, probably if I would have done this when in my 30s, it would have been all about money.
money.
Now, not so much.
Yeah.
It's-
It's funny how
Yeah.
it shifts. You
Yeah,
know, 'cause,
when you have grandchildren, everything changes, and I've got 3 now. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and Daphne, my oldest, has helped me pack them before. So that's the picture you saw.
So not necessarily associated with the Fajita Butler, but just in general, have you had somebody or maybe a couple of somebodies that have been either your mentor or just someone who's had a lasting impression
Yes.
on your life?
My mentor is Lynn Berry, and he's the one that in the very beginning he put $50,000 in this to help me get going.
Okay.
Because Wei Wei had a bill, you know, and the 3D prototypers.
Not 50,000.
Not 50,000. Nowhere near that. So
He
yes,
really was your longtime ally.
yes. Lynn Berry and me met, became very close in a dark time of my life. We'll just leave it at that. And he's been instrumental in a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of the production. Everybody needs somebody that holds them accountable.
Yep.
Okay. And so early in my years, I didn't have anybody that would hold me accountable. So I made pretty dark decisions, right? So now with Lynn Berry in my life, it keeps me from making those dark decisions, and I want to make him proud. Him and my father.
Yeah.
You know, now I remember my father years ago when I started the window tinting business in 1990. He said, "What are you going to do when you tint all the cars? You need to go. You need to go to college. You need to learn a trade." And I said, "No, when I tint all the cars, then I'll go do that." And that was 35 years ago. So.
And you're still tinting.
And Brian actually is a highly ranked window tinting
I've
skilled.
competed. I've
There's
competed.
actually, I didn't know this, but they actually have competitions.
Yeah. I didn't rank as high as top 10, but I think I was 54th
Out of 600.
Yeah.
That's
So-
amazing.
Yeah.
Now, how do you balance this, you know, with the Fajita Butler kind of taking off now and the window tinting, and how are you
My
balancing?
son, my son is a a big part of the window tinting company. And this is actually, I've kept the overhead extremely down, and the ease of doing this as far as shipping them. Everything is right behind the window tinting company. So we have a whole other warehouse that if we're not doing this, we're doing that. You know? And eventually, I think probably in 5 years, this is all that I'll do. And my son will take over. You know, he'll take over the window tinting company. I'm just going to do this, you know. But right now, we don't have a bunch of employees to pay. I mean, and that's another blessing of having it made in more or less in Dallas, in Arlington. I can drive and go get 20 pallets and put them in the warehouse, and then I just pack them up. I can show you how easy it is to pack. So whenever we get them from Arlington, really all we do is open the drawer.
So you actually have to put them together.
Yeah, you just have, this is the extent of it. However long this takes, and I'm usually moving a lot faster than this.
And Brian was showing me how cool it is when these items are in the drawer, the friction prevents the drawers from sliding out.
Yeah, and that was part of the tooling process. When the tooling was first done, every time we grabbed one, everything fell out. So we had them make the holders a little bit higher than the drawer, just to put a little pressure on it to where nothing falls out. Yeah.
But when you are using it, then it slides.
Right.
Yeah, when you pull it all
items
out,
are not in there anymore.
then the drawer moves freely.
Yeah. And all of them stack too. So
Yeah, everything stacks. If we had two here, this circumference here is the same as this. So you can see there. So
yeah, that's cool. So you're taking up less kitchen space when they're storing it.
Yes, and that was something else when I first started doing the prototyping. I thought, you know, it's not only saving space, you have to worry about saving space for the customer or the patron at the restaurant. The restaurant kitchens are normally small, a lot smaller than you would think. So we made sure that everything stacks. Like in the first design of these, they would only stack one way.
Okay.
But
So
I had them change it to where it doesn't matter if they have 6 and they're all going this way.
This way, right?
You know, I want them to be able to stack either way.
That's
so,
little details like that you don't even think about that makes a difference.
Little small details,
Because
there's a lot of little small details. Like this handle was going to be a knob, you know, just
like this.
coming out like that. And I thought, you know, if it only has one point of connection and it's plastic, easier to break off.
Right.
So we did the handle all the way across like this instead of something like this. Yeah. And as far as durability, I remember the day at the molding company where when we picked up the first one, it was light. And I said, we want it heavier.
Right.
We want it to feel like it's something. And so it's 2 pounds, you know, and it's well made. It would have cost a lot less to make the other one, but we kind of beefed it up and made it to where it felt like something, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, you get that. I think people like that where it comes out on that tray and it's sizzling and all that. And if it were cheap, flimsy looking, it would kind of detract from that whole experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah. It's very Instagram worthy. We get a lot of pictures.
For sure.
You know, once you know, of course, we're not looking at it here with food on it, but once food is on it, breakfast tacos, fajitas. I actually have a company or a restaurant called I Am Sushi Grill, and they probably do the most beautiful pictures and videos of it of anybody.
Sushi grill.
Sushi, yeah. And
how did they use this?
They keep these chilled instead of hot, so they're total opposite. Total opposite. And when you open the drawer, they do seaweed wraps.
Okay.
So there's seaweed in here,
In there.
and then beautiful videos and beautiful pictures of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I Am Sushi Grill.
You know what?
I don't know where they're located at. I need to visit them, but they do awesome stuff. I mean,
Do you
Are
have-
they in Texas? Are they in Texas?
no,
Where are
no,
they?
I want to say they're in. I don't want to lie. I think they're in Kansas or something. They're not in Texas,
Well,
or
I'll have to look them up.
I would have already visited them if they was in Texas. But yeah, I'll get stitched to that.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So I was thinking of
So
you know, like
impressed.
where you mentioned sushi, and while we were talking, I was thinking it'd be cool, like with barbecue or something, you know, where you have your meat or whatever, and you could have rolls underneath or whatever.
Well, back in the earlier days, I had a food stylist do pictures of it, and they did do some with kebabs and naan bread
right.
here,
Yeah,
and
from
then
Mediterranean.
some Oriental with pop stickers in here.
Yeah.
And so there's other uses. If when it first started, I used to have one by my bedside, right? And being OCD, apparently, I probably shouldn't even mention this. This could probably get edited, right?
No.
But I would come home and put my keys and stuff out of my pocket here, my wallet here, and
that's
then my
so
quarters,
funny.
dimes, nickels, and pennies. Yeah, because
Boy.
to be perfectly honest with you, I don't eat fajitas. You would think that fajitas would be my favorite meal, but it's not. I don't eat fajitas.
Probably because you've been eating
Probably that.
quite
Yeah.
a bit of
Yeah. Now, when I go to
testing.
restaurants, I'll order fajitas and then something else, and I'll try to make my sales pitch on how unorganized their fajitas are.
And here, let me show you something.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes down usually.
I love
yeah.
that. So
I love
now,
it.
do you have a social media page? Do you have an Instagram page for this?
I
or-
do, but it's not very good, and I'm working on that. I'm gonna find somebody like Wei Wei's talent that'll.
But you
that'll
have
help me with that.
Facebook.
I have Facebook.
Yeah, we're gonna
That's her
include all
Facebook
that.
thing. So
Yeah, we're
Yeah, I
gonna
have
include all
Facebook.
that
You
information.
just
I
need
probably
like
need to post more, but
you need like a high schooler or a college
Yes.
kid to do it.
Yes.
So, like my daughter's in college.
Yeah.
And her cat has an Instagram
Yeah.
page. So
it's for 10 years ago. I was thinking I got to learn Facebook, and then I got to learn Instagram, and then when TikTok come out, I thought I can't learn all of it now.
I
So
know there's too many platforms.
there's
and
too many
all, but-
platforms.
And
you know.
I mean, there's kind of different audiences in each one. And
Sure.
so it's kind of like who do you want to hit? And there's different ways of, I think, some of them, you see some of the same things on Instagram and TikTok and whatever, and maybe Facebook, but in general, there's like, okay, who's our target audience? And do
Yeah.
that. But you're right, it's harder unless you
Yeah.
have like a social media
But
person.
social media is a lot better. We were talking about this earlier in the SEO and whatever. Everybody's going to that, and I'm going to have to do that. As of right now, I've no pun intended, but my plate is full.
Yeah.
So I can't handle a bunch of orders.
Right.
Mainly because I'm not selfish, but I'm picky and I want to handle them myself.
Right.
You know.
You want to keep it
Yeah, I'm going to
manageable.
keep it at a certain speed.
So we're almost out of time, and so I guess to finish off, maybe a last question can be: do you have like a piece of advice or something that you could share with a young, or it could be an older entrepreneur, someone who's just trying to get their idea off the ground? They've got something going. They think they have something that could be really cool out there. Do you have advice for them?
When you think of something, after you think of it so long, and even today I struggle with this, you start thinking, that's stupid, that'll never work, right? And even today, when I look at this and knowing that it's out there serving fajitas and sushi and whatever everywhere right now, I still look at it sometimes, even with showing you, I think, this is so stupid, right? So even though you think it's stupid, and if you have something like as ugly as this, I'm not saying call Wei Wei, you should call Wei Wei. But
I love this place.
find you a Wei Wei,
Oh,
okay?
Love
Find you
it.
somebody that'll tell you it's not dumb, okay?
I think that's our new model. Find you a way.
Find you a Wei Wei. I like that.
If
I
you need
like
a way,
that.
find Wei Wei.
I love it.
And between Wei Wei and like I said earlier about having somebody to make
Find you a Lynn.
find you a Lynn and find you a Wei Wei.
So it's finding that person to believe in you.
Yes,
and they
yeah.
can kind of
Because
push
you can talk yourself out of it real quick.
Right.
I mean, I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars into this thing and thousands of plates out there. And I almost talked myself out of going to the CMAA show where I gained 113 customers, because I'm still at that point where I'm thinking, this is stupid.
Oh gosh, I have to say you're the only client that made me cry at our meeting. But I absolutely saw the potential in this when more than 10 years ago when we first met.
It's brilliant.
So,
And
and that's probably where we got close. I mean,
so super glad that you did not.
I wasn't going to go anywhere besides with you from that day, for sure.
Well,
we love having you here.
Thank you.
And telling us your story.
Thank you.
We just love it, and we hope that every Mexican restaurant will be serving fajitas with your.
Yeah, it's the new way.
It's the new way. It's the most logical way and most economical way, because you're saving in many different ways. The restaurant money. So
I haven't had anybody say this won't work and this is why.
Absolutely.
So
with that,
it's done well.
We want to thank everyone for tuning in to our latest edition of Rockstar Launcher, and we thank our latest Rockstar, Brian Butler, for spending the time with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.